Hello my loves, I'm Ellie Frost. Thank you so much for being on my channel where we are talking about the multi-dimensional approach to rapidly and radically healing and transforming during and after narcissistic abuse. And what I want to talk about today is healing emotions and trauma after narcissistic abuse, right? And just give you some information on it. So our emotions fundamentally are messengers, yeah? They're the way our body speaks to us. And if we don't listen to them, they tend to get more intense and louder. And if we have had a very intense experience, like a trauma, we get stuck in an unprocessed emotion. That's what's going on in our energy field. So trauma is a strong energy lock where we haven't moved past something. So we're frozen in our growth, development, action often. And we're kind of, a trauma we suffered as a child will keep us in the mentality when that trauma is triggered of that child, right? So let's start with the emotions first. So what we haven't been taught often is how to process emotions, so separate out feelings and thinkings, right? They to be dealt with separately. Our mental body and our emotional body are two very separate things. And trying to deal with emotional body on a thinking level doesn't resolve anything. Putting logic on emotions doesn't change what needs to be processed. Like if you eat something and need to go to the bathroom, the body needs to purge emotions and then reflect on what they mean, right? So I talked to you a lot about processing emotions. But for example, anger as an emotion. The message of anger is always that we're letting someone cross our boundaries. The message is our boundaries are being crossed. What you'll find in life is we repeat cycles, right? And if we don't listen to our emotions, one, we tend to get sick, dis-ease in the body. A lot of disease and illness can be caused by emotional imbalance. And secondly, we tend to get in the same situations and the next time the emotion gets stronger. So if you think about it, if I was driving my car, if someone cuts me up on the road, I might not get that angry, I might just let it go. By the time a fifth person has cut me up on the road, I might now give them the finger or scream or get really angry. The emotions compounded because I never released the first time, and I never cleaned myself out. So therefore, when I attracted something that made me just as triggered and angry, this time the emotion is 10 times more strong. With trauma, it's something that was so strong, the body couldn't process it, and so it kind of shut it away. It couldn't deal with it. It had to put it away. And when you actually consciously start healing your trauma, you allow the body just to process the stuff that it couldn't process at the time because it was too much. It was on overload, like a computer with 100 tabs open. That's our system when we've got trauma and a lot of unprocessed emotion. It just can't open a tab, it's flashing, right? So we have to take some time to regulate our nervous system and process. So anger generally means my boundaries have been crossed. So I've got to look at what am I letting happen in my life? I was just saying this morning that anger was the hardest thing for me to get in touch with. I had to actually consciously connect to the anger inside of me. I knew it existed because I needed to grieve, but I wouldn't connect to anger. It wasn't an emotion that I felt very naturally. And when we've been taught to constantly self-abandon, self-sacrifice, put ourselves last, right? Then we have to numb out our anger and separate from it because otherwise we'd be feeling angry all the time. Yeah? So I had to actually start kind of consciously letting myself be angry when my boundaries got crossed, because anger is actually the emotion that we're supposed to have when that happens. So to tell us to not let that happen, to give us guidance, right? They're all messengers, not to react and hurt someone else. So again, if people can't control their anger, they lash out, but that's not what it's for. It's actually very healthy, but it's for you. All emotions are for you to get clarity on you. Resentment, this is a big one. I teach a lot on this in Sovereign because a lot of people don't communicate things. Resentment happens when we haven't let something go, we haven't forgiven it, or we haven't communicated it. For a lot of us, it's because we don't communicate and we make assumptions and expectations that honestly aren't fair a lot of the time. Yeah? It's like if I say I go around my friend's house and she's asking me to babysit her kids all the time, and I do it and I do it and I do it, and then I ask her to come and, I don't know, look after my dogs while I go and get my hair done, and she says no, I may just resent that and not communicate it and make lots of assumptions about how she doesn't care about me and, you know, all these things that aren't necessarily true. She could just not even think about it. And, you know, she's not keeping score, but a lot of people are keeping score and then resenting things. What would be better is for me to say, hey, I was upset that you didn't help me out, considering how much I come and help with you with the children. Now, in that situation, what also might be going on if I'm feeling a lot of resentment is I'm helping her with her kids, but not really wanting to, in which case it would be better for me to say no. Yeah, because we have such a big problem with saying no, which has got to be much more welcome. I don't have a problem with saying no anymore, but I used to have a terrible time saying no to people. Right? So then I'd build up either resentment. For me, I wasn't really resentful or angry. They were emotions I had to really work on. It sounds funny, doesn't it? But they were. It was healthy for me to get in touch. Now I do feel angry at things, and that's great because I know I've got to stand for myself. I needed more anger in my life. But not to sit in it, but to be able to cultivate it. I was too shut down on that for a long time. And then I also want to... you know, be able to say no. I couldn't say no to people. I did so many things that I didn't want to do for a lot of my life because I was trying to be nice. And so someone said to me, can I talk more about the people pleasing and why it's a form of manipulation? And it does make you an angelic match to manipulators because even with the best intentions, I'm still not being myself when I'm people pleasing. When I do people pleasing just means I do something that I don't want to do. So I'm not being honest because I don't want to do it out of obligation to someone else with either to keep the peace, make them like me, but it's not coming from a true place. That does not mean that we don't do things in life that we don't really want to do for other people, but there's a different energy there, right? It's not coming from I'm doing this to make you like me or to get something. It's coming from, I don't really want to do this, but I'm choosing to because I choose our relationship or I choose, you know, there's a different energy around that. I'm doing it purely to please you when there's nothing in me that really believes in doing this right now. I don't want to. I'm selling myself out for it. We don't need to do things out of that energy ever. You know, if it's really going to come at my own cost and I'm denying myself in it, I shouldn't do it. I'm not in a position to give. I teach about giving and receiving in Sovereign, right? If you can join this week. But like, you can't give if you're not in a position to give. It doesn't mean how much money you've got or how much time or energy. It means, can you give freely? Giving is free, right? When you're giving. But when you give and then you resent it, we've gone wrong. That's not giving. That's a transaction that you need to communicate. So yes, we do things in life that we might prefer not to do, but the majority of the energy has got to be, yeah, but I really do want to do it because I want to be the best mum or the best girlfriend or the best, you know, all that kind of stuff. Not I'm doing it out of some kind of obligation energy, right? Because I feel guilty if I don't. That's not the right place. Therefore, we've got to come back to ourselves. So that's resentment. Fear, a lot of the time isn't real. Fear comes in when we're doing something new. The mind is only familiar with what it's familiar with, so it will always flag up fear. Your mind is designed, right, to be kind of not your driver, in fact. Your intuition's your driver, your GPS. But be the thing that gives you some information about what could go wrong, just so that you have thought about things. It's not when you feel fear that you don't need to go ahead with things. Anything new is going to feel scary a lot of the time, not always. So fear is misunderstood, but it's basically what we've got resistance to. People feel fear when they go to the gym. You know, they don't know why. They go, it's just resistance. It's just resistance to something new. So we've got to understand that fear is a healthy part of life and doing things that need courage or new things. It's not, fear isn't always the thing to tell us something's wrong, although sometimes our intuition will. We're like, you know, you'll get a feeling that you shouldn't go somewhere or it just doesn't feel right. That's the thing to trust, intuition. But fear is a very healthy part of like knowing that we're doing something new. A lot of the time, if you're in danger, then you're going to feel fear. Yeah. But again, if we're listening to our intuition and trusting our guidance system, there'll be less things that are actually dangerous for us in our life because we'll get the message not to do something or to do something, and we'll stay away from danger from our own logic and intellect. So the fear that we generally feel in life, like a lot of the time, is false evidence appearing real. Things that we're actually resisting doing that often would be actually beneficial to our growth. Like, you know, fear of change, fear of moving forward, fear of rebuilding, fear of anything new we do often creates fear, you know? Fear, people get afraid when they go on holiday, you know? It's just like, some of it's healthy. So we've got to understand healthy fear and fear that's actually telling us that there's danger, yeah? And again, fear that there's danger doesn't always mean there's danger. We fear anything that's unfamiliar to us. So it's just a part of the brain's functioning. We use our intuition to tell us what's safe for us, really, and what's not. The brain just relates familiar with safe, and sometimes familiar is abuse. So sometimes we'll feel comfortable in abuse cycles and scared of healthy. Have you come across that? Like when people go into healthy relationships, they often get scared because they don't know if they can do that. They don't know how to perform in a healthy situation anymore. They've been in an abuse cycle, which the brain thinks is safe because it's familiar. So fear doesn't always mean danger. It just means new. Right? And sometimes we're scared of new because it comes with consequences that we're scared of. Like, what if I'm not good enough? What if I don't do it right? I'm scared to go for the next job. Doesn't mean you don't go and grow. It just means it's part of it, right? We've got to learn how to walk with fear. So now the next ones are quite important. Guilt and shame. When we're in a narcissistic abusive relationship, we feel a lot of guilt and shame. A lot of it shouldn't be ours. The narcissist doesn't feel any remorse, any guilt or shame, and they project emotions. It's part of what they do. So we tend to feel guilty and ashamed of what they did to us. You know, we're ashamed that we were abused. We're ashamed that we're victimized. We're ashamed of the actions. We're ashamed of our life. It should be their shame of what they did to us a lot of the time. But in any case, a lot of it's projected on us. Guilt tends to mean in our bodies, right, that we feel like we did something wrong. My behavior was wrong. When I feel guilty, I know that I did or said something wrong. That's just a point for me to get the message. They're all messengers. That, like, I need to think about not doing that again because I don't feel good when I do it. I feel guilty. So therefore, it's not in alignment with me. Shame is a very heavy emotion. Right? Because shame, when it's in our bodies, tends to make us feel like we are fundamentally wrong as a person. This is why shame's heavy. Why a lot of us won't look at what we're ashamed of, because it's one that people reject and avoid. It's just because at a core level, the feeling of guilt is I did something wrong. The feeling of shame is I'm wrong. I'm wrong. That's what I was saying about the cognitive dissonance with my parents. It's like I couldn't accept my parents abused me. I had to keep living in the illusion of they love me, because what it meant subconsciously to me was that I was wrong. There was something fundamentally wrong with me as an individual. And of course, my brain doesn't want to accept that, because what would it mean? That I wouldn't be able to have a healthy life. I wouldn't be able to have a good life. So it was a very hard thing to accept. But when you understand that shame is a step beyond guilt, it's not I did something wrong. It's that I feel like I'm wrong. I have to tell you that's always not true. It's just not true. It's something that we go into because our core identity has been kind of damaged by some experiences. Yeah? A lot of people that go through certain things in life will feel like they've been ruined in some way, or destroyed, or tarnished, or tainted. And I promise you, there is nothing that you can't transmute energetically, right? And come back into yourself and be as pure and beautiful as the day you were born in your field. Like, you can feel that way again if you heal. Nothing externally can change or taint how beautiful and magical and spiritual and your essence inside, right? But a lot of things can feel very heavy to get beyond, which is what trauma does. So understand that the feeling in the body of shame is that we are wrong at a fundamental level, and that is never, ever the truth. Someone said on the channel, what does this picture say, right? And I talked about fear. It says, let your faith be bigger than your fear. Let your faith be bigger than your fear. If you're feeling fear, by the way, guys, you've got to work on your faith. Not listen to the fear. If it's towards something you want, yeah, then I've got to work on my belief systems. Then I've got to work on my faith, yeah? Because if it's something you want, you're going to feel fear. And guess what? You're going to do it anyway, right? Because that's what we're born to do. That's what we're here to do. But yeah, shame's a heavy one. So just to know that there's no truth in anything being so fundamentally wrong with you. You're not stupid. Even if you've got brain fog, anything. I only meet, everyone I've ever met has got wisdom inside of them. They've got awareness inside of them. You have too. You're not too damaged, too... whatever you think about your own intelligence. Sometimes when we get in these cycles, we don't feel very clever anymore. That's not true. That's not true. You know what's right for you, and you are able to see past things, and you're not stupid to get in situation or whatever, you're learning, right? You're learning things that you didn't know before. We've all done it. It doesn't matter how intelligent we think we are, we can be put in traps, right? So not anymore, not now you're here. But that's what I wanted to share. Any more comments? So on the people pleasing thing, it's just that we unintentionally, it is a manipulation tool. And the thing with energetic match in the universe is it does make us a match for more manipulators if we're being false in any way. And when I people please, I'm not being true to me. Again, sovereignty, authenticity always is about being true to you. Lots of love, guys. I'll speak to you soon.